Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fairscape Precinct, home of the Botswana Stock Exchange Limited. As per protocol, allow me the honor and the privilege of acknowledging the presence of the following. We have with us the chairman of Media Institute of Southern Africa, Botswana, and partner at Collins Chilisa Consultants, Mr. Mpoki Chilisa. Let's please give him a round of applause. We have, of course, the Chief Executive Officer of the Botswana Stock Exchange Limited, Retapelo Tsaule. We have with us again, fellow speaker and head of product development, Mr. Kopano Bolokwe. At the back of the room, we also have the rest of BSC management. We have Re Tsametse Molai, who's the head of listings and trading. And then, of course, we have Meti Dimalo Bonyane, who is the board secretary and head of legal services. Please give her a round of applause. I'd also like to acknowledge market participants from your respective organizations, media practitioners from various media houses, members of the media. A very good morning to you all. As you are all aware, the open bell ceremony is time sensitive. So I would just like to briefly go through the agenda of this morning's proceedings. We're a little bit behind schedule. However, we shall call upon the BSC Chief Executive Officer, Retapelo Tsaule, who come to the podium and deliver the welcome remarks. Henceforth, we shall call upon Mr. Mpoki Chilisa, who will be giving the official remarks of this morning's open bell ceremony. Henceforth, at 9:55, we shall have the official bell ringing, which is when the market will open. And then at 9:56 to 10 a.m., we shall have the photo opportunity. There has been a slight change to the program. We shall move back the vote of thanks to the very last end of the program, and then we shall have the discussion, which will be facilitated by the head of product development, Rokopano Bolokwe. And this morning's discussion topic will be centered around what can be done to enhance financial reporting and to nurture and develop media relations. So at this point in time, allow me the honor of calling upon the Botswana Stock Exchange Limited Chief Executive Officer, Retapelo Tsaule, to the podium. Please give him a round of applause.
Good morning, Mr. Mpoki Chilisa, Chairman MISA Botswana, and thanks for honoring our invitation to be the guest today at the fourth opening bell ceremony. And the first opening bell since we became a company in August. Now we are no longer Botswana Stock Exchange, we are Botswana Stock Exchange Limited. We operate under Companies Act now. We converted on the 3rd of August. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you today, mainly as a representative of the media, to honor the work that you guys do, and to also honor the role that you play in the development of the capital markets in Botswana. One of the things that we do is to update you on the events that are happening on our market, and this event include the trading levels, total trades up to 31st August were 1.1 billion pula in terms of equity trades, and I think this is slightly less than the same period last year, which was 1.8 billion. Mainly this is as a result of the mandates. You know, BPAPF always award mandates, and I think they're in the process of awarding mandates now. The process is not complete, So I think guys are still holding on the trades, but we have had a significant improvement in bond trading for both government and for parastatals and corporates. The total trades increased to 1.1 billion from 266 million pula from beginning of this month to beginning of this year to 31st August. One of the important things is that we have had our first annual general meeting as a company last week Friday, at which new board of directors were elected. They're in the process of being vetted by MB Fira. That is why I'm not going to disclose names. But what you can know is we have got new board of directors now. Of the 10 board of directors, 8 are independent and 2 are non-independent. I'm the second non-independent. The other one is a broker. We have 1 broker in the board now, as opposed to 6. Today, when the market opens, we are having a new counter. Botswana Building Society Limited is going to start trading today. They will have their opening bell, I think maybe next week, to celebrate their registration to the market. They are not listed. They are on the OTC board. Theirs is only a registration, but of course with the long-term aim of ultimately listing. That is what we want. So at the end of the business day today, when you receive the daily market report, you realize that BBS Limited is included in that market report. I think those are the general highlights in terms of developments in the market. We are looking forward also to about 2 or so more listings before the close of the year, which we hope to do and celebrate. So that's all from me, and thanks for all of you for coming to celebrate this opening bell ceremony with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Retole. In the interest of time, I would like to proceed with the program and call upon the chairman of Media Institute of Southern Africa, Botswana, which is Re Mboki Chilisa, who shall deliver the official remarks this morning. May you please give him a round of applause.
Chief Executive Officer of the Botswana Stock Exchange Limited, the management of the BSE, employees of the BSE, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a good morning to you all. On behalf of the Media Institute of Southern Africa, Botswana, I would like to thank the BSE for inviting us to come and join you in this sacred and symbolic ritual of ringing the opening bell, which marks the start of trade at the BSE. The last time I rang a bell was 20 years ago in primary school. So it is indeed a great privilege to have been invited this morning on behalf of MISA Botswana to come and ring the bell. We are truly honored on behalf of all our members. Let me first start by congratulating the BSE Limited for completing the process of demutualization and joining an elite 28 other stock exchanges across the globe that has undergone the process. Your success in this respect has been widely covered in the media. in large part due to the media practitioners who are here this morning. At MISA Botswana, our core mandate and objective is to promote the values of free speech and media freedoms. The values of free speech and free media are an integral part of every thriving economy and healthy community. 29 years after its establishment, the BSC still does not have a media company that is listed on the BSE. However, the number of media houses has grown since the establishment of the BSE in 1989. We have moved away from a situation where we had a handful of newspapers to having a different newspaper for every day of the week. Although media companies are not represented at the BSE, the media plays a central role in the success of the BSE. It is in fact an indispensable partner. It is an indispensable partner because it educates the public about the ongoings of the BSE, about trades that take place at the BSE. The public makes decisions on whether or not to buy shares on the BSE based in large part on reports that they see published in the media. Media coverage of listed entities has over the last several years become very extensive, with almost every newspaper now having a business section where these matters are discussed. We also, for the first time in the country's history, have a newspaper that is dedicated purely to covering business issues, being the Business Weekly. The sensitivity of share price and financial markets towards media coverage can no longer be disputed. An inaccurate and malicious story that appears in the media can have an adverse effect on the share price. A company can lose value running into several millions of pula simply because of an unfavorable story in the newspaper. Similarly, a company can gain immense value simply based on positive media coverage. So there can no longer be any doubt whatsoever that to an extent, as media practitioners, you are able to influence the price of shares on the BSE through the stories that you run in your newspapers. So the partnership between the BSE and the media, it's a very critical one. Through proper collaboration, the media is able to take the BSE to the ordinary man on the street, explain to the ordinary man on the street how the BSE works, what the purpose of the BSE is, so that investing on the BSE does not become the exclusive preserve of fund managers and upper middle class people. So given the importance of the relationship between the BSE and the media, it is hoped that going forward, the media can work very closely with the BSE to ensure that financial reporting is accurate, to ensure the highest level of professionalism in covering what goes on at the BSE, in covering those companies that are listed on the BSE. It is hoped that when we do come knocking on your door to seek support for enhancing the skills of media practitioners insofar as covering issues of business is concerned, the BSE will lend a helping hand. Because as I've indicated, it's very important that matters involving the BSE and the companies on the BSE are covered accurately, with the greatest accuracy, and with as much integrity as possible. It is also important that those media practitioners who cover matters concerning the BSE and the companies on the BSE become accustomed to the nomenclature that is in common use at the BSE, so that they're able to better explain in simple terms some of the terminology that you people at the BSE like to use. For example, you use demutualization, which is a very big word, to describe the BSE now being enacted as a public company. So that terminology needs to be constantly explained to the media practitioners so that they get a proper grasp of the right concepts to use, because tomorrow we don't want you calling it mutualization or calling it something that it's not. So it's important that media practitioners receive education from the BSE on some of the concepts that are in daily use, so that you can be able to explain to someone on the street what a share is, what a derivative is, and all the other fancy terms that they like to use on the BSE. Because ultimately, the aim is to see the BSE not just being the preserve of pension funds and the upper middle class, but seeing the BSE being a vehicle for investment for all Botswana, because share prices are not that high. One is able to invest in several shares from as little as 100 pula. You could get yourself quite a number of shares at the BSE. So there is no reason why the ordinary person should not be encouraged by the media to use the BSE as a vehicle for investing for a greater tomorrow for every Botswana. And that we can only do if the media sees itself as an important and integral part in the growth and in the success of the BSE. And in order to achieve this, you need to become accustomed to the terminology, to how it works. You need to understand how the indices, the BSE indices work, be able to explain these to the ordinary person out there. Mr. Tsaule, let me conclude by sending a challenge to all media practitioners who are gathered here this morning. And the challenge is to see to it that by the year 2030, there is at least one media company that is listed on the BSE. 2030, we're talking 12 years from now, it is an ideal that I believe is attainable. So it is for you as practitioners to realize this ambition of having a media company by 2030 on the BSE. So it now remains to thank you once again to the BSE for having extended this wonderful once-in-a-lifetime privilege of having MISA Botswana ring the opening bell to mark the opening of trade. I thank you all present here, management of the BSE and media practitioners for attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilisa, for those very gracious official remarks. As he was giving his speech there, I felt rather saddened by Mr. Reboloko because he stole all his points for our next discussion. So I really don't know how he's going to facilitate the next segment of the program. However, that is for Reboloko to figure out. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about a minute left, if I'm not mistaken, before the official bell ringing and the opening of the market. I'm going to hand over the bells to Retsaule as well as Mr. Chilisa, who will be opening up the market within a few seconds. The green signifies the opening of the market. You may please ring the bell. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. At this point in time, I would like to call upon the Head of Product Development, Rakopana Bulokwe, who will be facilitating a discussion centered around financial reporting and nurturing and developing media relations between ourselves and you as media practitioners. So at this point in time, I'd like to call upon Rabulokwe to the podium. Please give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just acknowledge that protocol is observed and go straight into the discussions. You would have noted from the remarks by Mr. Chilisa that you play quite an important role in as far as information dissemination is concerned, and indeed in as far as influencing performance on the market in relation to share prices is concerned. So financial reporting naturally is a very challenging and complicated area. More often it requires a little bit or sometimes significant academic training and some level of practical experience. But what we've seen in recent times is that the level of coverage of the financial services sector and the capital markets in general has improved by the local media houses. So it is a very good and positive observation and contribution from our local business journalists. And what this means is that it has brought about a lot of exposure to most of you as business journalists. It has brought a lot of learnings to the media fraternity. And who are the ultimate beneficiaries? The public, because they are the end consumers of the product that you put out in the form of financial reporting. In April last year, 2017, BSE Limited held a media training workshop. You remember a lady called, what's her name again? Nosipho Boanja from CNBC, a very popular financial reporting presenter on television. And this was one of the ways of strengthening financial reporting amongst yourselves, over and above strengthening the kind of relations we have nurtured with the media fraternity. Historically, and also on an ongoing basis, the BSC has been warmly receptive of the media. We pride ourselves in the sense that we turn around very quickly when you submit questions. And sometimes we have one-on-ones with business journalists here in order to try and help them unpack quite comprehensively the kind of mathematical calculations that we do, what they mean, how they can be interpreted, for you to make it easier for the public to assimilate that kind of information. So this is one of those forums that we also utilize to strengthen this relationship. And I want us to take this opportunity to reflect on this subject matter on the agenda, which is financial reporting, just to get our heads around what can be done to enhance financial reporting and strengthen media relations in Botswana. So this will be an open discussion. Everyone is invited to contribute. And luckily we have here our guest, Rachel Lisa. We have the CEO of the BSC Limited. We have BSC management. So they'll also be part of the discussions, should there be any questions. Just to kickstart the discussions, I want us to highlight and unpack some of the challenges faced by business journalists in Botswana when it comes to financial reporting. What are those things that make it a little bit difficult for you to access financial information, to report on it, or perhaps to understand it?
Some of the issues that we have are institutional in terms of niche reporting. You'll know in Botswana, because of resource constraints which have been imposed upon us largely by government, and government putting a moratorium on advertising in the private media. I think that has been in place for about 2 years now. What has happened is that there's therefore been a limit in terms of the resources at disposal of private newspapers particularly, because government is now pushing all government institutions to place adverts with the daily news. So I think, yes, there's a very strong need to have specifically people trained as financial journalists. I know that there are these workshops which are funded by FNB on a year-on-year basis. But the larger problem as well is the environment in which we are operating, and the fact that people have to cut staff, and typically senior staff or people who have been doing financial journalism for some time tend to go into things like public relations, because journalism, particularly in the private media at this point, is not very rewarding. Because no one wants to advertise in the private media, I get it, including yourselves. So when you come to us and you say, let's have a discussion or let's have a workshop, sometimes we want to laugh, because you guys will obviously be more sophisticated than your daily news reporter. When you get to him and you ask him, is it possible to, he says, no, it's okay. We work with orders. And as it works right now, we had a white gentleman called Jeff Ramsey, who decided where all adverts were placed. And even though some of us believed he was working for the CIA or whatever. I'm being very cynical, I'm being silly. But what I'm saying is, it was a very centralized system. That system has not changed. And we were hoping with this new administration that would not change. But so the larger problem in the environment is the environment. So it's not just financial reporting, it's other areas as well. Especially these niche areas. It could be something like health reporting. It'd be nice to, for example, have people who focus specifically on health reporting, so that there's institutional memory, I get it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with financial reporting. You don't want somebody saying something 2 years ago, 2 years later he says a different story, and because you've got a cub reporter, he doesn't pick up these discrepancies and contradictions. So I think the bigger problem is the environment and the lack of resources at private media companies, including big companies.
Good morning. My name is Moni from Press Photo. I believe that most of our news gathering based in Gaps or Francistown. Okay. That's the scenario. It shows that the budget for news gathering is limited. If you have an event in Takatokwane, you'll find very hardly any media house is going to cover it unless someone sponsored them or the organizers take them. In this case, what it become more of straitjacket reporting, or PR pieces than investigating. We don't conceive reporting to deliver it after 6 months or 1 year. We run always for the next available deadline. If we have weekly, we target next weekend what I have to submit. We don't really invest much on a report. If you see most of the reporting, it looks like surface level, and a lot of them are peer pieces. It's feed by the organizations. The reason it is, to me, like we run for shorter deadline and less resources involved or less budget for news gathering. That's the, I feel like, the biggest challenge for us. You see, if the same event, bell ringing, is happening in maybe out of town, if BSC doesn't sponsor, it's hardly to find a reporter or a media person to go there to cover it. So this is the, at some point, I like, we as a press photo believe that going with the sponsors news gathering for editorial content, it compromises the content itself. So readers always deprived from the original content. Because like if it's sponsored, definitely you have to have a soft corner with the sponsors. So maybe there's a chances of not coming the truth.
Yeah.
And that's I think a big challenge we are facing as well.
Yeah.
Good morning, my name is Tony from Socialite. I'm going to talk about what I see as a problem for the media houses is the rise in digital media. And unfortunately, I'm from the digital space. And, you know, the biggest challenge is we don't see a lot of people buying into traditional media anymore. Anybody with access to a cell phone can create an article. Everybody with access to internet can create news. So what then becomes is it becomes very hard for organizations to report on actual facts, because now what we're trying to find is credible sources of information. And anybody can become a credible source nowadays if you have the consistency and if you have the knowledge about that particular subject. You become an expert overnight. So one of the key things that I think is something that Botswana Stock Exchange has to look at is building alliances with the right people in the media space that will combat the digital space, and they'll be able to unpack issues at a level that the average Botswana can understand, yet positioning themselves to be experts in that particular field.
Key points have come out. The rest of the digital space and positioning such as an expert in news reporting, budget constraints, and the environment itself, the lack of support from the environment. So building on such background, what do you think can be done to create an environment that is more enabling, that will allow the media houses to flourish?
My name is Oratile Kifitli, I report for Gaza Feb News. So I think I agree with what my colleagues said in terms of the challenges that we face in the media front. But in terms of what can be done now to rectify or help rectify those situations, I think, like Silo did say, there needs to be more assistance in terms of training. FNB once did a workshop. I think they do it on an annual basis. I think other entities should also help and come on board and assist. In countries like your Kenyas and them, journalists are actually taken on the benchmarking exercises to VBCs and then international media fronts. So I think if entities like the Botswana Stock Exchange Limited could also, help in terms of, financing or funding journalists to go and benchmark outside and groom the financial literacy, education among, business journalists, it would actually, work something. Thanks.
Okay.
You see, my philosophical issue is that what needs to be done going forward is that we need to be adding value all the time. You see, Botswana, we've got 1.8 million people. We've got a significant amount of resources. There doesn't need to be the amount of suffering and joblessness that you see in the country right now. So at a cynical level, obviously, FNB has this financial reporting workshop which they hold yearly, which is fine. You don't want to be seen to be duplicating something that is already there, I get it. So We've got MISA apparently, which has returned from the grave. So there's a possibility that maybe you might want to sponsor Financial Journalist of the Year or something like that. You understand? And generally, we expect also generally, because we don't want people trying to manipulate what we are writing unless you're dealing with junior cub reporters. People are very excited. But what we are saying is that when you are doing things like these financial literacy competitions, when you are doing your public awareness competitions, workshops that you are running in the rural areas, you need to consider also advertising in the private media. Don't restrict yourself to the government media, because I get you claim you are demutualized and you're independent and all the rest of that. No. So we expect that general support, your general tendency of the BSE not to be seen to be advertising the private media. We are saying that needs to change. Obviously, you guys are more sophisticated than government officers, so you'll come up with sophisticated reasons as to why the budget. We've heard that story several times. For whatever you're doing, for any product or service that you have, you always have to publicize it.
Yeah.
It has never happened that you can have the best product or service in the world, but there's no publicity budget for it. How are you going to sell people? How do you sell something that people don't know about? It has never happened anywhere in the world. Every product, every service needs to be marketed at some level. And we are not saying it should be done salaciously, it should be done in an unethical manner, but we are saying in a general way, there's a problem with the environment, and we are saying that it would be nice, apart from the issues that I've talked about, Financial Journalist of the Year, benchmarking, and going to the New York Stock Exchange and seeing what they're doing. Because some of the stuff that we do doesn't win us friends. We talk about corruption. You'll recall last year, beginning of this year, there were issues of choppies and delayed financials and stuff like that. So there comes times when we are putting a microscope on very powerful companies which have got a significant presence on the BSE, and we are worried about issues of unethical business practices. So we don't expect that if our stuff is accurate, that we want to be seen to be undermining the work that we do in that area, because unfortunately it's a small society. So some of these businessmen, they squeeze us, and sometimes this is the job that we have chosen. We have to make sacrifices, but we have to stick to what we do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kitso Sofolodi. I've been following Botswana Stock Exchange page for some time. I'm interested, to be honest with you. But I believe, I'll be outside the box for a minute. I believe you can bring the speculative part of maybe trading the stocks. I think it would be a fun. The reason I'm saying that is because right now people are looking for fast money, like it or not. So if you are not looking to tap into that market, I believe you'll be staying. And like JST already has that, US Stock Exchange has that. So I believe if you can bring the speculative part of it, maybe the trading platform similar to the MT4, the one they use for forex trading, I think they stand a better chance. People want to play, people need entertainment, either way. So that's my side, but I don't know how you view it.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for that contribution. I think those have been very useful contributions, well noted, and obviously we interact on a lot of platforms, and we will be made aware of the developments in relation to your contributions. So I'd like to ask Mr. Chilisa first to make a contribution on this notion of enhancing financial reporting and enhancing media relations in Botswana. Mr. Chilisa, what do you think needs to be done from the point of view of MISA Botswana?
I think for me, the most important thing to do would be to provide training so that there is better understanding of the work of the BSE, greater understanding of the financial markets, because some of the reports that one reads, one gets the impression that the writer is not fully up to speed in terms of what they are writing about. So I think it would be useful to organize a one-day seminar on an annual basis where you could take the reporters through the concepts that are encountered on a regular basis at the BSE. Somebody has mentioned that F&B organizers training on financial reporting, but I think it would be useful if the BSE did something that was specific for the BSE, so that, well, the reporters are able to explain some of the concepts that you use here in a way that layperson is able to understand easily. So training would be most appreciated from a MISA perspective.
Re tsole mafoko ana o ka re o ka iteela ko bo moroko bo re kgwa dikgaba.
Thank you. I think thanks everybody for the good comments and thoughts that you provided. And I'm pretty sure the budget for training it's there. But one of the things that I think we prefer to do as the BSE is to get from the media practitioners themselves what is it that they want to be trained in. Instead of, because I'm an economist, I'm not a journalist, so I respect the profession of journalism, and it would be nice if you can specifically tell us this is what we want to be trained in. But to be honest with you, for the 2.5 years that I've been the CEO, I've seen a lot of coverage from the media in terms of content, in terms of quantity, in terms of even scope. But of course, I have my own wishes that more could be done in terms of the analysis of the performances of companies, because that is what actually creates news. But just like one of you said, people look in the short term. I mean, we never see a lot of stories that looks at the financials of a company and try to go deeper to say, this company did this much last year, the previous year they did this much. Why are profits falling? We never see journalists taking CEOs of listed companies for the fallen share prices. You know, some of the companies were like 4 pula something 2 years ago, and the share price now is about 1 pula 70. I mean, that's a drastic fall, and those are some of the things that I think you guys need to take CEOs of these companies to really explain the erosion in terms of shareholder value, and possibly maybe for the boards to explain what is the man still there doing when there's so much erosion in terms of the value, but they are paid large salaries. I mean, I see a lot of people running to salaries of what these guys earn and bonuses, but they don't link them to the performance of the companies. But if you look at some of these companies, you realize that the salaries and the bonuses have been increasing, but the dividends and the profitability have been reducing. I mean, those are some of the things that we really wish you can concentrate much more on. And you know, we support the media, Cyril. I know we have been resistant to all those government things that don't advertise in the private media. I mean, for us it's clear. I'm probably lucky I'm still CEO because we run a market. Market operate on information, so you can't restrict information. I mean, we're just clear from the onset. And also, one of the biggest support for us that I know media gets lots of money from listed entities is because of the nature of our listing rules. Our listing rules forces all listed companies to publish their financials in private media. And you realize that majority of the center spread segment in newspapers is the financials of listed company. It's because we force them to do that. Whether that is shared equally among newspapers. I think it's a matter now that becomes business development in your area. That you need to go to these companies and lobby them to use your newspapers. But I think we will continue to support you. But I think feel free to come forth and let us know in terms of if we are to have annual awards that are going to be monetary, or the winner will have to go to Kenya for a week or so. I think we can simply afford those things. The only thing that we probably need to do is to get some independent people to do the adjudication in terms of such things. But I think it's some of the developments that we are ready to make. The training, I think it's a good thing, but it would be nice if we get various perspectives in terms of how we can do this. We called NOSIPO, of course. The feedback we got from some of viewers that there was much more on TV reporting than writing and radio, which was proper feedback. If you think you want us to bring somebody from somewhere, let us know the person and the type of training that you need. We will gladly facilitate that. But I think we are now going to be able to do a lot more now that we are sort of demutualized. We run a lot of courses and conference. I think the few times that we invited journalists, they will come in the morning, and then midday after lunch they disappear. Mainly because they are on deadline. That is the excuse that we always get. We are having a market making course this Friday, and then on the 21st we are having a blockchain and cryptocurrency program, and then I think what is the other one coming?
On Friday there's a round table on credit ratings by BSE and Moody's.
Yeah, there's a round table of credit. These are technical things that if you sit throughout the day, by the end of the day, you'll be able to grasp what exactly that is. So that when people next time talk about credit rating, you know exactly what they are talking about. But I think we can't have all of you in all of them. So we'll probably, maybe I'll suggest to my team to stagger the invitation. Maybe have 4 at once. So those who are interested, I think talk to Rebo Lokwe. Which of the 4 are you interested in? Then we'll just invite 4. But please sit throughout the day, because some of these things are very important. I mean, by the type of person we called for blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's a world-class expert. World-class. By the time you leave the place, you'll be knowing exactly the ins and outs of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. You can even probably go and trade them if you want. But even the market making one, it's very important and very interesting, and including the credit rating one. So I think that's what we are striving to do. But like always, we are 24 hours available to help, to neither confirm nor deny the allegations. Yeah, that's what we get. But I think we are happy with the participation in the local media, and we are willing to really assist. And I think all these ideas that I said, we'll look at them and see what is the best way to go around them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratsole and Rechilisa. With this, we've come to the end of our program. You would have seen those invitations to the events that Ratsole highlighted. So kindly make an effort to RSVP so that you attend, particularly one coming this Friday and another one next Friday. There's the other, almost every week there's such an event or activity. And in the coming bell ringing ceremonies, we would also announce more workshops that we are undertaking. For example, in end of October, beginning of November, there is a capacity building workshop hosted by African Union and Botswana Stock Exchange. So that is a very big one for Africa in general. Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for your patience, for your contribution, and for always being with us all the time. We hope that our relations would continue to strengthen going forward. And like it has been said, we are available, we are at your service 24/7. Have a lovely day.